To break another news to you, since you said there is religious freedom and so on, in the New York Police Department profiles Muslims in New York and the Northeast area, and in fact they have surveillance and they spy on Muslim organizations in the Northeast. What's your opinion on that?
And just to add to his comment about spying on them, going so far as to put undercover agents into student groups in order to spy on them.
So who was spying?
NYPD and FBI, right? It was
They're spying the Middle Eastern Muslim.
They were spying
Muslim
on Muslim organizations in the Northeast, New York City, surrounding areas, and they're currently aren't they being sued right now for that?
Some Muslims, yes,
Yeah.
they are.
So that since 9/11 or that happened in the revolution.
9/11.
I would. That's not surprising, but I know that the United States their fear is terrorism, and all what happened after 9/11 was under the pretext of terrorism. But actually, terrorism is a faceless, is invisible. Terrorism can happen not in the States, in every part of the world. And I can, like, the example was 9/11 of this year when the ambassador was attacked in Libya. So it's not even in the States. So I think those measures are useless and nonsense, because even though you spy those groups, there are still groups that you don't know where they would come from, because it's always spread out throughout the world, and it's fails. It's not an invisible enemy that you can just stop it. Another thing, I think it's a shame on the States to do that, because it's a democracy and it's leader of freedom of expression and privacy. I don't see the point of supervising people. And I'm taking a constitutional class. We're writing a new constitution in the U.S. and we want to include privacy, because actually there is no article about privacy in the U.S. Constitution, and privacy of people to not control their phones. And this reminds me of dictatorship. It's like Big Brother is watching you, and this is what's happening to us. So I'm totally surprised to have people in the States watched, or this can be done only in cases that have been proved that these people are dangerous to, like, national security or anything. But to spy on or watch ordinary people, this is the private life of people, cannot be done this way.
You might need to help me out with the pronunciation of this, because I am not sure how to say his name, but it's President Moncef
Marzouki?
Yeah. He has extended the country's state of emergency through January. This move was prompted by military and security officials to deal with what's being called Salafist-led attacks and Islamic radical violence. What do you think this news means for the long-term stability of Tunisia?
What's the source again?
The source was the source of his advice. The news site. The news site was, I want to say it was BBC.
Oh, that's.
But it was
not surprising. Yeah. I mean, international media propaganda is so obvious to me during revolution, after revolution, because when I was into the movement, I've seen the international media propaganda outside. If they want to make a protest of 100 people, they can make 1,000 people, and if it's really 1,000 people, they can make it 100 people. And when I've been here when I've been in DC during the elections, it was really totally the opposite. I've been Facebooking with my friends in Tunisia and knowing the real situation, and then I've been seeing the news and what the news are propagating. I was watching the news before the revolution, but during the revolution, I stopped watching international news. And actually, since I started blogging, I was every time correcting New York Times, and all these international media, because they propagate false informations and they mislead the audience. There were a case where we had a big attacks. It was an attack on a painting exhibition, and there were portraits that the Salafists have seen it as blasphemy. And then actually it wasn't a big thing. It was a small 3 or 4 Salafists. They went to that building and like destroyed some stuff. But then there wasn't a huge demonstration or something, and then on like 2 minutes on the news, I've seen like, oh, the Salafists are ruling the country, the Salafists are making this and this in Tunisia, and it wasn't true. And we don't like that propaganda, because it's totally getting into the marketing of a news to always be watching, as even I don't blame Western media, but even Arab media as Al Jazeera, like when the revolution started in Egypt, they started propagating about Egypt and forget about Tunisia, because for the only sake of keeping the news going and breaking news going. So totally, I don't.
I'm just to update. I'm looking at it right now. The story has also been picked up by Al Jazeera, Times of India, and Israel National News, along with allvoices.com and nomnewsnetworks.org. So that's just to name a few.
Yeah.
I do not see, looking just at the original news search.
The original.
I do not see BBC's on here, but this is today's update, and I did check it about 3 days ago. So just.
I mean, the original. If you want, I mean, even me, when I search for the news, I go on Twitter and see what my friends tweeting, what's going on in Tunisia. If you want to search for new news, you just have to read blogs of Tunisians. If you want to search for news on Egypt, you have to read blogs on Egyptians. But the news and national news, they just pick. They are like competing on picking who's first picking the news. And when something happens, is that like this exhibition of that being attacked by Salafists, like in 2 minutes it became international news, while there was no even clear picture of what really happened till people went there and bloggers went there to report what really happened. And it continues like this way. It continues even after revolution, during the elections and all this stuff. It continues this way of a big propaganda of international media misleading. And this is why I don't blame when I talk to Americans that they don't know what's really going on in the country. I don't really blame them, because this is what their international media is showing.
I want to go back to another question that has to do with our very own community, Georgia Southern. Now, you have been here for how many months? 3. 3 months. What is your assessment of the political culture on campus? You can talk about our student media, you can talk about our student events, you can talk about everything that happens at Russell Union.
Yeah, actually, first thing, when I went to DC, I would expect people to know what is Tunisia, what's going on in the Middle East. But when I came here, I expected to that if I say Tunisia, someone would know, because it has been on the news 2 years. But
yeah, about our news.
Yeah, but I would like, Tunisia is a tiny country in North Africa, but if I would say what's going on in Egypt, Syria, Libya, Bahrain, Yemen, I think, especially on Georgia Southern and as a campus, students are so much, exclusively focused on their studies and their field of study and expertise, rather than keeping an eye on what's going on the outside world. So most of my debates on politics or religion or stuff like that, I do it with either political science student or the Arab community here, that they already know what's going on. But if I would talk about that to an ordinary student on campus, they wouldn't really argue about that. Something else is that whenever there is really interesting, like an event or a lecture or a debate, I always become surprised of the number of people attending, because those debates are really important. Even though if you don't follow the news, you should come to those debates and inform yourself about what's really going on, and listen to these scholars, what they're saying. But what I found here is that the student, they can go to a party, be like thousands of people, but not to a lecture or a debate. I don't know how the education system in the US should work more on involving the students into political stuff. Not really involved, but some way informed, a little basic information about what's going on the news.
Do you see this as a difference between the Tunisian education system or the Tunisian student population and the American student population?
Actually, in Tunisia, we've been interested in politics before and after. Before we've been, but we never talk. I mean, you can never even whisper the name of the president because you can get arrested immediately. We've done, before the revolution, 1 year before the revolution, Model United Nations, and it was really a big step towards even talking about politics and political issues. But we were hiding behind other countries and nations and Model United Nations. After revolution, I think everyone is talking about politics. It's become like a phobia. You can talk even to my grandma about politics, and she can give you her opinions and views about what's going on with politics. And everyone became knowledgeable about what's going on in politics, even though you don't like their views. But everyone is, in a way, has views about politics. And especially now, I mean, it's on the table and it's everyday life that you find people debating, you find circles in the street, you find even in the bus, in any place, you find people talking about politics. And maybe this is a difference even in daily life details. If I go to the bus in Statesboro, I would hear people talking about the party or last night.
On that, give me 3 most popular topics of discussion in public space in Tunisia.
It depends on the period.
Yeah.
But religion is a very
a specific issue from there.
Common topic. Religion mainly is Sharia, not Sharia, or a Nahda as a moderate party, or it's an extreme party, okay. Salafism, and all this stuff about religion.
A second issue?
A second issue would be women issue is on topic, and even though we had 49 out of 260 maybe seats in the parliament, but still we always see women as they can have more space and more leadership positions. So women, they would totally be an issue on the street, either in politics or veil, not veil, or religion, many topics.
A third issue
would be international affairs and our relation to America and the West and how they intervene in our business.
Give me 3 most popular topics that you hear at Georgia Southern Public Space.
Because I've already got my 3. I've got my list. I just want to hear what yours are.
Oh my gosh. Well, now homecoming, it's the queen and the king of the university or something like that.
First, second.
It would be the Halloween party and your customs.
Okay, second, third.
I don't know, third topic. It would be your grades and how you get to finish this year.
And I think that's just because of the time of year and just where we are. Just because we're on a college campus and because it's homecoming and Halloween and all these other things. Honestly, my top 3 were going to be sports, music, and video game releases leading up to the holiday season.
What's your 3?
And Ifad's kind of like nodding along, sort of, because he knows what I'm talking about.
I would agree with both of you.
Yeah, that's not really the top 3 that we necessarily all talk about, but you overhear those conversations and even take part in them. Like, that you can't get away from sports here, but even during a presidential election, the week before the presidential election, the election is on Tuesday. The front cover of the Georgian today was Georgia Southern versus Appalachian State.